Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get some more.
Wow. None of that's true. The first paragraph is just lies.
Is that you?
I guess so. Look at that. Cool.
Did they all get that?
Okay. Is this for me? This stand? And then that for them? That's cool. All right.
Okay, you're gonna like go sit down.
I guess I'll go sit for a little bit, although, yeah, what am I starting with? I'll take my piece of paper.
Okay, well, I don't want to read your whole bio.
No, don't, please.
Anyway, we're very happy to welcome Toby Appel for this master class. Yes, yes. That's him over there. Yeah. I picked him because we have the same beard, more or less.
That's not all.
Yeah, yeah, that too. Yeah, we've known each other for many decades, played like thousands of concerts together, and it's always been a great pleasure to work with him. And he's also a world-class cook. So anyway, you have his bio. You can read all his impressive accomplishments. So we're going to start with Summer doing the prelude of the Bach C minor.
to stop you there.
Okay.
We should say thank you. Put on this mask just in case, and elocute even more than usual through my mask. So, how did you choose to do this version rather than the original version with the A string tuned down?
Oh, my teacher.
Aha!
Yeah.
Okay, is that person here today?
No.
Oh, good, okay. So I'm a big fan of the original version simply because it gives us the correct chords and the correct notes. And I think one of my favorite things about this particular suite is the more Baroque sound you get when you have the octave Gs happening. That exists in here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
open it to that, or can you find it while I do this? Don't break. Oh, I went the wrong way. I think the whole instrument just takes on a new character, and I think it's very, very cool. It does, if you have learned the other version first, play a little bit of a mind game on you, which is not fun at all. I don't know if this is picking me up. Should I talk into it? No, I'm not going to talk into it. Oh, it should be right after or right before.
Okay.
That's 6, so it must be before.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Here you go. Go back. Keep going.
Okay.
Oh, so it must be
this one,
before.
right?
Yeah. There we go. So instead of doing we have so you get both that dissonance and this dissonance. The tritone and the major seventh. It's so sort of powerful. I wanted to talk to you about the very opening. Can you just play do your version?
Okay.
Sorry, you need that first page, or yes, you do.
Yes.
Okay. I just can't read the modern version or the non-tuned version and then play the other one.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
what you need to do.
Okay. So just play the.
Yeah, just the very opening.
Okay.
Cool. So, tell me what would you like us to get? What is the character of the very, very opening?
Okay. I think it's very like end of the world, apocalyptic. That first chord.
Okay. And if you sang it, how would it go?
Da.
Cool. So when you start, you have that.
Right.
You're somewhere between a T and a D. I was curious. So I want to go a little bit farther with this and talk about the first phrase. It kind of closes down the way it started. And because of that, it always occurred to me that it might be interesting to roll up and have the upper C, which we don't know yet is going to be the melody, appear out of nowhere. The problem with this is it has to be in tune.
Yeah.
Because if you roll up, then everybody's going to know that's a bad idea, right? But to not have anybody be able to tell where that happens. Can you try that?
Yeah.
Roll up, and I'm going to ask you to exchange this for a big D, as if you had a mallet for your gong, your huge gong, and the mallet was the same size as you, and a very sort of fluffy, velvety head, so that when you hit it, it goes that way instead of da-ta, not like a hard wooden stick or metal stick.
Okay.
Cool. Summer, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to start from above the string and come down with big weight. Yeah, better. So think about an airplane landing and you're coming down towards the runway in the direction you're going to land in. So then we're on a down bow, so it's going to be landing backwards that way. From Chicago to New York, this way. Okay?
Okay.
Don't worry about the top note yet, just that bottom C.
Okay.
Cool. Think about the sound point not being the string itself, but the top of the instrument. So you're going to go right through the string and let the instrument, the string is very strong.
Okay.
It's going to support your bow weight, I promise. Better. Exaggerate way too much,
Okay.
so that it's really coming. Cool, now let's try to roll up. We'll try to pick an upper C, and then when you diminuendo, because we're playing on a bow that is designed later and meant to sustain sound, but if you were using, can you guys hear me? Okay? If you were using a bow, it would be losing weight very quickly, narrower ribbon of hair, gets lighter quicker. That's another discussion for another day, whether we're trying to be copying what Bach may have heard at that time, but even let's think for a moment about that natural disintegration.
Okay.
And then roll in the upper, so you can't tell where it happens,
Okay.
even from where you are.
Okay.
Good, and let the sound go away. The length of this first note should be as long as it takes for you to get to the point where you want to start climbing.
Okay.
That's another story, however, because in that equation, we've got to come up with cut time somewhere.
Yeah.
And cut time in Baroque music means something slightly different than later. So it means two things. One is the obvious one, the way you count, yeah. So it's in two. And the other one is get on your horse and keep moving.
Okay.
You know, it means that it's moving along. So in the end, I think that it's got to really stay in a two. I'm a big fan of Isaac Newton. One of his rules, one of his laws that he discovered, they weren't laws when he discovered them, takes more energy to get a body into motion than it does to keep it in motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And he's got rules about inertia. The more notes that continue in the same direction, the easier it is for them to move. Which is why, can I play this piece this way? The reason it doesn't go like that is because of Newton's rules. That dee da da dee da 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 da, as long as it keeps going in the same direction. So here we have an example of a lot of those notes are going in the same direction, and I think it's okay. I agree with your apocalyptic vision of this, but I'm not so sure I feel it until there. This is just, it's like, I don't think anything good is going to come from this. So if you're sending that message, great. But I don't think it gets warm or pretty until that note separates out and we realize that is going to become the melody line.
Okay.
Don't be scared.
Okay.
Come crashing down.
Okay.
Good. So let's exaggerate more and see how much we can get away with. Too much?
No.
Okay, you do that then.
Okay.
Cool. Try to do that roll a little bit sooner.
Okay.
We're going to go for. It's a big explosion. I think we need a bigger B or a bigger D. I would personally vote against the T or the K or the Q or the hard C. It's a little bit mean-spirited, and I don't think it's scary enough, frankly. But from the air, just come crashing down. If you're low enough in the bow, it won't bounce or do anything bad.
Okay.
Do you own that viola?
Yeah, this is mine.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry. In case there's going to be an accident here, I apologize. No, it's going to be fine.
Okay.
Good. Even more going forward.
Okay.
Go on. Good. So I have a lot of energy moving upward. And then basically I retreat, right? There are notes that are changing direction a little bit, but I think the big picture, if you stand away from the music, you see that and then that. The coming down doesn't take us all the way down to the bottom. But I feel that you're going back up again, even though the music is coming down. I am not a believer that you make crescendos when you climb the scale and diminuendos when you come down, but I think in this case, since we're returning exactly to where we started, that it might be a better bookend.
Okay.
So, can we go from here? You gonna keep track for me? No? More or less? Okay, yeah. Go on. Good. Bach is building tension at this point using a musical device which is known as...
Dissonance?
No, the dissonance really mostly is in the beginning of the second bar. But he's got, what's happening here?
Chromatics?
There's chromatics and it's called contrary motion. It's what most people refer to as the way I am in life. Contrary to everything. I think it's a really cool thing when he starts separating lines. He does the same thing. Or, sorry. Right, where he goes down to the bass line, up in the melody line. So point to it. This, in my opinion, is a French overture. And in being so, I believe you could go towards double dotting.
Okay.
Have you considered it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can try. Yeah.
And I would love you to try this bowing as well. Once you get to here, sorry, do it separate, but another down bow when you get to here. So it's down and up. Because if you don't, are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
If you do, then you're not going to have enough room in the bow, but. Sorry. Wrong edition. So, from here, one more time.
Okay.
Show me the bass line going down, melody line going up.
bowing?
You can do, usually he'll mark, this is Simon Roland Jones, he'll usually put a slash in it when he is disagreeing but showing you what the original was. So you can do the slur. These are separate. Da-da-da-dum. Exactly.
Oh, okay.
So. I feel like the attitude that it sounds like you want in this, that is the danger, I think it can continue through it. And I hear it some in the second bar, and then it kind of goes away, gets too overcooked noodly. Too soft, too exotic. Let me play just a little of it for you, but I need to look at the other music, sorry.
Okay.
Here, I'll stand for that. Here. See if this is too weird for you.
Okay.
Actually, come a little closer so you can see what I'm doing with bowings and stuff. Ooh, that's not good. Things I'm thinking about is, in order to make it sound like it's in two, the second and fourth quarters I am trying to back away from. So when I have a measure like this one, he's got, out of 4 quarters, F natural is on 3 of them.
Yeah.
So the ones that are, the one that's on 2 doesn't exist, the one that's on 4 I want to hide. Okay. So since it's basically an ornament of F through the whole measure, so I have that F, that goes with that chord. Yes 2, no 4. Half bar lighter than the down bar, 2 and 4 in quarters avoid unless there's something that draws your attention and you say, oh, that's too important, I want to hear that.
Okay.
I think that the cadenza could be way more free, so when you get, from here, all of a sudden it takes on a very bold and exciting character, and things are really moving along. And it sets us up for a foil in the fugue.
Right.
If you were a choreographer for the, let's say from here to where that tune comes, all the way to here, or the first cadence, whatever, how many dancers would you use?
Ooh. Okay. 1. More than 2 for sure.
Can you just play? Oh, so I'm going to give you your music again. Sorry. There we go.
Okay.
Oh, you've got it here, so I can keep my version. Play the different notes.
All right.
Yeah, play the beginning of the fugue. Actually, can you play from? And then go on. to that far, how many dancers you got?
2.
2. What's the first one say?
Dun, 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 dun.
And the second one?
Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da.
Oh, okay, so I like your idea here. I'm not so sure about this one.
Oh, okay.
Because I think that the first dance, is it a boy or a girl, the first dancer?
Ooh.
La-da. It's hard for me to sing that high, those notes, because we're playing an octave lower than the original. But I'm going to call it a girl or a really pretty boy. I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm going to make this one, whether it's a boy or a girl, it's going to be really just stupid. Lifted and a little bit not too intelligent. That's why I usually think of it as a guy. So, a smart girl, gentle and sweet and legato. So this voice goes. And this. Can you try that?
Yeah.
Separate those two voices. I think it'll be easier to hear. When you're done with that, when you get to this point, la, la, dum, bum, bum, it's 2 other dancers.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So okay, can I have 30 seconds? I'd like you to be lower in the bow for these guys. Because if you want to get off the string, you ain't going to be able to do it out there.
Right. Okay.
Can you try once more? Lower. Legato, first 2 notes.
Okay.
Good. So that same stroke I was asking you for to start from the air, it's like a half moon, the bottom of some circles. Turn the hair a little bit away from you, as opposed to cellos who turn us this way. We go this way. Cool. That's a stroke you need to learn to do really well.
Okay.
Because it's a lot of lifted stuff.
Yes.
A lot of the courants use that stroke anyway. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that the program has changed. It's going to be Rebecca Clarke Sonata now? Is that right? Okay. Hey, Teddy. Nice to see you. I hear you're injured.
Yeah.
So okay, so you're not going to use that finger or fingers, right?
Yeah, I'm using 2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4. You don't even need that many, as far as I'm concerned. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
You like the first page or 2?
First page and a half is plenty. Absolutely. Check your C with a piano C, please. So Rebecca Clarke, you probably know, she said she was 5 feet 12 inches tall, but that means 6 feet tall. She said it wasn't proper in those days to be 6 feet tall as a woman, so 5 feet 12 was sufficient. She played on a 16-1/4-inch viola. That's what you've got. And she had really big hands. And when the publisher asked her to put markings, bowings and fingerings in the part, she didn't want to do it. At least this is what she told me, but they insisted, so she did. These are the fingerings that she did. She never expected anybody else to do them. So think 6 feet tall, big hands, small viola. You can go anywhere you want on the instrument. I'm not disagreeing with those bowings or fingerings, but I think she would not mind if you changed something, and there may be reasons to do it. In general, and I know you're using different fingers than you're normally using, and that probably plays a mind game on all of you, not just your left hand, but I'm having trouble hearing you. And I know Cullen's playing, and he's not going to overpower you. He's going to give you room to come out. So and I may as well talk about this too. I believe the piano should be open all the way when you play a cello recital, a viola recital, violin recital, and you get a really fine pianist who can control it. I am a big believer in making up for dynamics with clarity. And a beautiful piano and a beautiful pianist gets heard when the piano is open. And when it's closed, it all just sounds, it's possible, but it sounds mumbly and muffly. We play an instrument that is also mumbly and muffly. And I would like to see you just go closer to the bridge and make more noise and dig in right from the very beginning. Colin's going to play as big as he can that chord, and your job is to get on your horse and get moving through that first cadenza so that there's some sound left by the end.
Yep.
So, and a lot of the information is very repetitive. And in fact, repetition is one of the things she talked about a lot. Because I played this piece, I was sort of one of the first people to play it again after very many, many years. I didn't discover it, but part of its renaissance is I feel partly responsible for. It was mostly Bob Sherman from WQXR Radio. He was doing a radio program on Myra Hess for her on his show, and he found out there was a woman who lived at 108th and Broadway who knew her and had played with her. So he went to interview her. At the end, he said, well, tell me about yourself. And out comes this story about she was a student of Charles Stanford in London and married the great Bach pianist James Friskin at the age of 55 and outlived him by something like 20 years or 25 years. But no one really knew about her. She wrote a lot of songs. She wrote a lot of good music, really beautiful music. And now the viola's not as, mainstream.
Yep.
So much so that some of my colleagues at Juilliard don't want to hear it anymore because it gets played too much. So let's just see the opening one more time. I'm sorry if it hurts you, and then I'll talk some more so you don't have to play too much. I counted them once. You know how many E naturals there are before that E flat at number 1?
Like 20?
Yeah, I think it's more. I think it's like almost 30. So they should know when you finally... It's like, oh man, I have escaped E natural for a while.
Yep.
By the way, thanks, Colin, for adding a little sound to that chord at the very end. Once you make it to here, you're welcome to take a little time, and then every repetition, when you get to them, here, Keep moving.
Okay.
Because it's a little bit too much like another potato and another potato. What did you have for lunch? Another potato. Geez, I wonder what you're going to have for dinner. It gets a little dull.
Yep.
So when it's the same thing, another potato, and dinner is potato, another potato, and tomorrow potato, another potato. It's much more interesting. They get softer, not necessarily, but faster for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You doing this bowing because it's written in the music?
Yeah.
Okay. I think. Do you hear it as two of those trumpet calls?
It's one trumpet.
One trumpet. So hook them together?
Yeah.
Cool. And then going.
Yeah.
I would recommend you trying anyway. That bowing that may feel better for you.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, everything that I did that was different than what she did, she was tickled pink about. You know, it didn't really matter. And that idea that there's one way to do something, when you meet a composer who says, no, it's got to be that way, just be wary of that person. Most really good composers, in my opinion, say, oh, sure, oh, that's a good idea, let's try that. Not always, but often. Now, I would like to talk about this second theme a little bit. Oh, one other thing. She's marked this climbing the D string. What do you think of that idea?
I mean, I feel like it's difficult to keep growing all the way up to the A string. It feels like jarring when you get to the A string.
All right, it's a little bit of a shock.
Yeah.
I think the good thing about it is we hear this in one color and then feels a little bit out of. Is there a place that you could cross that makes sense? Cross over? So this is just a general, I think it's a good idea to be a rule. When you have repeated notes, use them as an opportunity to change color between them. So maybe you could do it sooner, but it's too soon because it's the bottom, right? And there's no A string F sharp, right? That I agree with what you're doing. There's a little breath mark there. How do you interpret that breath mark?
I honestly haven't been too inspired by it. I don't really have.
Yeah, I think it's a terrible idea if you think of it as a place to take a breath. La da 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 feels really hiccupy, really weird. But I think perhaps what she's looking for is what a dot would be in somebody else's composition. No dot. Dot, in my opinion, means not legato. That's all it means. Doesn't mean short, doesn't mean bounce, doesn't mean anything other than don't connect it to the other note. And I think that's all she means. Which is kind of what you're doing. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of others. If you play the Bach 1919 or the 5-movement suite that includes the processional, meditation processional, and the Hebraic suite, there are so many breath marks that make no sense as time ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just think about it.
Yeah.
So, can you play this? This is the color after you play the second theme tune. So da 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 dee da da, maybe the bar before. So, in my always say that so that I'm going to turn you a little bit this way and get you closer to Cullen too. I think the viola should be lined up with the flat side of the piano when you're playing. No? Come like that. And do you really hold out so far? Or are you just doing that to line it up with the piano?
This is how I hold.
Okay, okay. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Is it weird?
That looks better to me.
This is how I hold it.
All right, so, okay, so your feet aren't facing directly out to the audience, right? Okay, this one's going now, okay. The note that you are reaching from is, in my opinion, more important than the note you're going to. So in this case, the large interval to the tritone, the low note, the G natural, is the one that I really want to hear, because I believe that it expresses your desire for whatever you're reaching for. It's a little bit of a weird concept. It doesn't matter if you like, I don't know, what's your favorite thing to eat?
Sushi.
Sushi. If I take your beautiful container of sushi you just spent a lot of money on, and I hide it way the hell up high somewhere in the kitchen, will you climb up and get it?
Oh yeah.
Yes, you will. That's what reaching up means. It doesn't matter if it's sushi or ice cream or a new car. It's this. But it's not the fact that it's sushi, it's the fact that you want it. And the amount of desire depends on what that interval is. You know, and in this case, we're going to something that's more blue or more dissonant.
Yeah.
So I don't care, it's not that I don't care much, but this doesn't hold the kind of, doesn't show me how much you want it. Can you try that?
With piano or?
Do it without it once. Right, so I hear you do this, that you go away from it. I'd like you to add weight, because you're in a down bow, right? I want you to add weight. You're going, two things are against you, in addition to not having a first finger. You have one here. You're going away, your hand here is right over the sound point. It's easy to find weight in the instrument, to find your body weight and put it in the instrument. The farther up you go, the harder and harder that becomes. We channel our energy. We're not pressing down with the index finger, we're finding weight further back in our bodies that we can use the first finger to channel through. That makes any sense. If I say, okay, I'm gonna push that as hard as I can with my first finger, that's nothing. But if I do this, and I go further back in my body, then I can use that to channel more energy. So as you're going, can you add no vibrato, just, is that 3/3?
Yeah.
Beautiful now. Cool, you don't need to add it here, but cool. Put it together. Yeah. Cool. I think that will be a nicer solution. And I also, maybe because I'm standing right here and you're trying to play louder or something, the sound is getting more focus in it, and I hope you guys are hearing there's more of him. Yeah. And you don't have to have this in order to make a big sound, but it's sometimes helpful. Ironically, some really big people don't make a big sound because they've spent so much of their time sort of lifting their weight up and not allowing it to go down. So breathing is useful when you're playing, and feeling, trying to check that your muscles in your neck are not tightening up and that your body, your arms are heavy. So that channel that. Can we do that with Cullen? Bar before? So, my teacher used to tell me, from here to here is not your friend, this upper half of the bow. So I'd love it if you do here rather than you're doing everything right in terms of adding weight from your index finger and beyond, but that thick part of the bow, when your hand is closer to the sound point, is going to be more sound, less work. Can you do it one last time? Talk about one other thing, and that is, I think it's easier to play, to be followed if there's direction in your playing. And I think a mistake a lot of people make is, okay, I want to be with the pianist, man. I'm going to play vertically. So can I play this passage for you, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm moving backwards, I'm never going to lose him.
Yeah.
And that same equation, that same principle goes the other way. Cullen should be able to go wherever he wants. And my definition of somebody who really plays chamber music really great is somebody who spends about 90% of their energy on the other people and very little on yourself. Like, where do you want to go now? What's going to happen? What are you doing? And that feeling, this idea of bar lines are bad. They're bad for music. They're just, they gotta, it's like, you ever listen to Elizabeth Taylor's husband, Richard Burton? You know who that is? You know either name of those? Oh, that's too bad. Elizabeth Taylor was, I was lucky enough to meet her because, Daniel, you guys know this, her cook was a very dear friend of ours. Lizzie Thorburn was the cook at Prussia Cove for many years, little Scottish girl. She had been the cook for the royal English family when they went to Scotland and cooked at this wonderful festival and then moved to the States and became Elizabeth Taylor's. Elizabeth Taylor was like one of the biggest star ever, female star ever. She was Cleopatra. She was, well, a lot of movies. Anyway, her husband, who she married, I think 2 or 3 times, was a Welsh actor named Richard Burton. And I think it's totally fascinating. If you go online, you'll find him reading Shakespeare sonnets. And if you go get those words and you try to read them yourself and understand them, and I don't think you're going to get very far, or I didn't, then listen to a whole bunch of other people speak those lines, and then you listen to Richard Burton and you say, oh my goodness, is that what that means? Unbelievable freedom and expression, and it's like, you've heard people play music and you say, oh, that's how that piece goes. That's, I think, our goal. That's what we should be doing, taking ownership of the music. Obviously, we've got to play the notes that are on the page, and the bar lines have some meaning, but it's mostly the technical way the composer has to write things down on the page. And then there's a lot of freedom. I do not believe that there's a tempo that starts a piece of music and goes till the end. I don't believe that at all. And also the dynamic range, just because Mozart usually just used forte and piano, it doesn't mean his music doesn't include fortissimo or mezzo forte or, it just, He trusted you. And then, of course, Bach hardly used any dynamics, almost none. Obviously, his music has all of those things. So there's a lot of reading between the lines that we can do, should do, and getting there, that's the fun of it. So, more freedom. He'll follow you, and you'll follow him. Be good. I think we should probably go on, so we give you a break, yes?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
Oh, okay. Is this Brahms Piano Quartet or Viola Sonata? Sonata. Okay, great. Slow movement of the F minor. Great. Anybody have? Oh, he's already here. Okay. Hey. I don't think, well, first of all, you're not that tall. You look taller from out there. Ugh, I think that you should get used to having the stand be a little bit lower. I think it's good to give the impression that we're not actually reading the music, that we just have it there, or maybe we're studying another piece, but it's not necessarily in our face. I also think you should move forward a little bit so that Cullen doesn't need to look back for you, but just turn to the side a little bit and get enough of your body language from that. Can you talk to me a little bit about what this movement means, in your opinion? What is this about?
I would say like a memory.
A memory. Cool. It's written near the end of his life, not that much more music. He didn't live to be very old. He died before he was 60 years old. And these sonatas, do you know the story about how they were written and why the viola gets to play them?
Perhaps.
Sort of legitimately. I grew up, my teacher told me they were the clarinet sonatas or viola sonatas and that Brahms had made transcriptions. It's just not true. He, in fact, didn't like the idea and said that they sounded bad, I think dull and awkward on the viola. I think those are something like his words. I don't agree with him, but that's besides the point. The point really is that when his publisher came to him and said, there's only 3 clarinetists in Germany, we're not going to sell any music, but there's a whole bunch of violists who could use a piece of music and they'll pay good money for it. Please make a version for viola. He wouldn't do it. At the last second, they asked him several times, they finally hired somebody else to do it. And at the last second, he came in and looked and didn't like it. And he made a couple of changes, but he didn't like what came out. All that being said, all that means to me is it gives us more freedom to change things around because Brahms didn't do it. Interestingly enough, in the Opus 114 trio, which he didn't write a viola part for, he didn't really change anything at all. No. There's something about this tune that is interesting. Before going down, he repeats the same note. And I don't know if that's where you're getting this idea of, which I agree with, of reminiscing something, so looking backwards. But there's something else about that particular way of writing notes that has meaning. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Maybe.
What do you think it means? We don't.
I would say the repetition of notes would go back to Beethoven.
The repetition of the notes would go back to Beethoven, okay? You mean like 3 C's? I can think of a lot of Beethoven pieces that don't have repeated notes, but I think it's a cool idea. Let me tell you what I think, and you can take it or leave it, but it's maybe an interesting thought. What kind of, if you think about physical motion of maybe walking to this movement, at your age, if you walk, you usually would go 1 foot in front of the other. But when you get older, you don't always do that. Say you're climbing stairs. The way you would climb stairs is 1 foot at a time. But when you're really old, you either hold on to the handrail or you hold on to the handrail and you take a step and then you bring that foot and then you bring that foot along. It has something to do with security and safety, and before he travels down, he puts the other foot, he gets his balance, finds his weight, and I think that's what this is about. And then This tune comes, did you count them?
I think 17 times.
17 times? You're still thinking about Beethoven. I think 5 times.
5 times.
Actually 4.5, because the 5th time it's only a segment of it. La da da ba da 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 da. That's it. And then he's done at the end. I think you need a bigger plan, because I only heard 4 of them. I only heard 3 of them, or 3.5 of them. Some of them are up high. There's one that is an octave lower. Think about what you want to do with that. The dynamics in this movement, I think, and this is something that I've probably going to talk about in the piano quartet as well. I don't think Brahms is good at writing dynamics, and he suffered greatly. He always had trouble writing big chamber music pieces because they ended up sounding more orchestral, and he wasn't happy. And I find in my lifetime of playing Brahms chamber music that I need to find new dynamics than what he's written. Most of the time, there's not enough spread between melodic voices and accompanying voices or rhythmic voices, and it's lots of things that he'll write pretty big you have to take way down. Especially in the quintets and sextets, we end up playing way softer than what it says. I would say the opposite in this case. This piano's bigger probably than what Brahms had in mind or had in his day, although there were big pianos. Maybe, did they have 9-foot pianos in Brahms' day?
Yeah, he played a striker at the end of his life, which was actually
Bigger than this. Yeah. So we have that problem. You're going to have to balance yourself to this. And I think in general, lower in the bow, flatter hair, closer to the bridge. I'm a slower bow guy. I know some people say you want to make more sound, move the bow fast. I wasn't trained that way, and it doesn't seem to work so well for me. So I'd love to start at the beginning. And that same thing that I said about the Clarke, I would like you to find more freedom and trust that Cullen's gonna be there for you. How many? No. So this is one thing we can't do, because the message that it sends is to the audience. It says, "Thank you for buying a ticket to hear me play. Just a second." I think, okay, I'm ready now. It just sends a bad message. So find it. I find it from first position. But whatever way you can, but you can't. I was at a concert once. You know who Lillian Fuchs is? She was a great violist and a wonderful teacher and a little short lady. I was in the orchestra when I was a kid, and she came to play the Sinfonia Concertante, and I swear, in the concert, you're already there. What are you checking for? And so, I don't know, maybe she missed it in one concert and had to check it again. It was hilarious. Cool. I would have a hard time following that because you did this. It's like there's no way to know where that is. So pretend you're a conductor, and but whatever your pickup is, when you breathe, the thing that Cullen is checking out is this motion, because a little bit of motion when you breathe, the viola goes up a little bit here, but a lot there. Then it's easy to follow. I don't know how he's doing it, but there's that hesitation. You're going, duh. Forget him. Good. Good, I'm going to pick on you more. I think that this is one of the largest versions, except for the one that's down the octave. Leave yourself room for less. Think of your poor pianist, and I don't mean in financial terms. So this is an instrument that at a certain point you can only press down the key and get a sound to a certain point. You can play so soft, you know, on the string instrument. You're going to, I don't know how well you can hear that, but I'm actually making a sound. So So that you can play less than that later on in some of those 5 other times. 4 other times. Okay, I'm gonna fix one other thing. Sorry. Put your bow down for a second. Cool. Make a L like this, and put it in the holster here. Okay, it's in the side. Okay. Viola's up. With this L, touch the A string without touching any other strings. That's how high your elbow needs to be to play on the A string. Okay, come down. D string without touching any other string. Cool. Can you lower your knuckle? In other words, flatten this out. There we go. Cool. That's how high your elbow needs to be to play on the D string. G string without touching the C or the D. Great. And the C string? Cool. You don't need that. It's not good for sound, especially on the viola. So I think I'd love you to play with flat hair, come closer to the bridge, and let more of your big muscle groups, your upper legs, lower back, that's where this sound is going to come from. Can you do that without climax? Oh, any big bend is bad for sound. So we're going to try, if you think about it, it's also bad if you're a boxer. You know, if you see the guy coming out like this, that's not going to work. As straight as you can, okay? So, as level, right, so this is not good. Level from the wrist to your lower arm, flat. Now try closer to the bridge, flatter hair. Think, I don't know, something big. Okay, let that weight go down and let's hear the first note. Better, even more. Cool, let's try that. Feels to you. Does that feel very foreign and really weird, like you're playing unbelievably loud all the time? Yes. Does it sound like he's playing unbelievably loud? No, no. I saw one thumb go up. It's, yeah. I'd like to talk about rhythm for just a second. So we're in a movement and the time signature is 2/4. So, and he's got some 30-second notes in here. Cullen has 3 out of the 4 subdivisions in 1/8 notes in the measure, and you have the 4th one. So it's already bum, 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 dum, ti, bum, li, da, 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 da. Your job is to get to the next downbeat in time, but there's no rule about how you do that. So you could, if I give you 10 seconds to run from one end of the stage to the other, it's okay, in my opinion, to stand there for 9 seconds and then go like a bat out of hell for the last second. As long as you get there at the right time, you're good. And I feel like Cullen is having to wait for you, and I don't want him to do that. I think it should be, maybe, can I do it? I'm gonna try to be predictable, but I also don't want to go da 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 da, because I think that's gonna hurt the music. You do 2 things. You start your 30-second notes late, and then you play them without a forward motion, and then the next downbeat isn't where it ought to be. And if you think about, and I think this is something that is really good to start with when you play solo Bach, Go find the best dancer you can find and make them dance while you play. And if they have a problem finding your beats, it's not their fault, it's your fault. I feel that in all music, really, that there should be a predictability about where you're gonna land, especially when there's this kind of a steady rhythm. And then when you decide you wanna stretch it, it's really obvious and can be really beautiful. I'd like to check out the low version. And I'd love to start from Cullen's last and before you play it, I want to let you know it's not your choice where you come in. Okay? Okay.
I have to play better than that.
Register. Now, can you play a different timing going into that? Okay. And in this register, I think, even bigger than the beginning. I would also recommend when you go up, a little minus. Stay in the lower strings of the instrument. One more small thing. If you don't have to, if there's a way to avoid, in a melodic situation, crossing for one note to a new string, don't do it. All right, I don't remember where it was, but you did something like, is a no-no. Think of the instrument as a human voice and try to, stay in one color if you can. If you have to change, we have to think about how that works. Make sure that you have a physical motion that carries you in. I feel like you're waiting, and so get yourself ready to come in. So one more time and going on. Are we okay? Down. Closer to the bridge. More sounds. It's a new idea and a new feeling for you, and I think you have to get used to. This is an instrument that's hard to hear. I've spent most of my adult life learning how to play big. And I just want to ask you one question before we stop. How does one play? How do you produce loud on a string instrument? What are the things we do?
Weight.
Okay, weight from your arm or from somewhere in your body. Yes, that's one.
I would argue the
Index finger adding weight when you're not at the frog, yeah? Two. Flat hair, close to the bridge, sound point. One that most people don't think of, vibrato. Vibrato will help the sound to carry and travel. Intonation. Better intonation because you are playing on an instrument that's tuned to C, basically. That's a C instrument, as opposed to a violin, which is a G instrument. And the harmonic series, if you play in tune, you will access the way the instrument wants to ring or can ring. Interestingly enough, when they adjust these instruments, the correct adjustment for string length is, this is 9 to 3. So it's, because of the math of the fifths, when you play the G string and the instrument, if it's adjusted correctly, the after length to the tailpiece should be an octave. It's a little bit flat. Close. Where are you? Yours is a little high. So a little bit short, a little bit longer. We're close.
Yeah.
Some are off by a big distance, and that can be a problem. I think we're supposed to move on, yes? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. David. Does anybody have any questions before we go on while they're getting set up? Anybody want to ask me for a recipe or? What is my viola? It was made by Clifford Roberts in Philadelphia. Sadly, he died of muscular dystrophy at the age of 51, but he studied in Cremona. And he was my instrument making teacher. I made a viola many, many years ago under his tutelage and sold it to one of my recent Juilliard pre-college graduates because he was 6 feet 8 inches tall by the time he finished studying with me at age 17. And now he's 6'10", and his viola was 16 inches or something. It was too small, and I had made a viola that was 17 and 3/8 inches, which is the same size as the viola I played for most of my professional life. 17 3/8 is awfully big. I can't play it anymore, so it wasn't being used. Well, I can play it for a few minutes, but I can't play it for a lot. And so on him, it still looks like a half-size violin, but it's pretty good. Anyway, I was missing a viola, so I went to Clifford's widow, and she has a whole bunch hanging in the shop still, so I bought one. And that's what it is, and it's pretty good. Yeah. Makes a lot of noise, which is good. Thanks. Okie dokie. Whose choice was it to sit in this configuration? Nobody's. Okay. Okay. It's this configuration usually is good for the violist and less good for the cellist. So it depends if you have a cellist that plays really big, this is a good thing, and a violist that doesn't play really big, good. But it should be your complete choice. There's a couple of string quartets that have moved things around in order to balance things out better, and you're welcome to do whatever works. Cool. Don't hit the piano. Take it away. Oh, do you need to tune, or did you already? Okay, hold on. One at a time, starting with the cello. That tends only to work for a second, and as soon as you actually play, it's going to be flat again, so better to turn the peg. Your D's low. And this is just an aside while she's doing it. Keep going. If in the concert, one of your colleagues is having difficulty tuning or tunes and it's not in tune, it's okay to say, psst, that's a little, quietly. Sometimes in performing situations, we get a little nervous and we can't hear just right. It's okay to do that. Yes?
Just stop them whenever. Just stop them.
Okay. Okay. What am I supposed to stop? I can pay attention.
Yes. We go over and stop.
Yes. Tell me how you chose your tempo. Did you try a bunch of different ones, and this is the one that you settled on? Is this the tempo you settled on?
The one we started with was, we started learning it under tempo.
Okay.
And then we tried to just set it.
I'm not so sure I understand what under tempo is, because there's that famous story with Glenn Gould playing, the second Brahms concerto with the New York Philharmonic, and Leonard Bernstein actually coming out and announcing that because it was Glenn Gould, he would go along with it, but if it was anybody else, he wouldn't. But they didn't agree on the tempo, and it was incredibly slow, supposedly. There was a recording, so one can listen to it. But it's your opinion, and I would suppose that da-dee-da-da would be maybe a practice tempo, or not even, right? So, was that the tempo you planned on? This what you started?
Well, we actually listened to this recording of the one with the manual axe, like a tempo.
And is this the tempo?
About more or less.
And how does it feel to you?
I think it feels decent. It's just kind of like in the moment.
Can you talk to me about this opening tune?
Well, this like the construction of the phrase.
Cool. There's an awful lot about what you just did that I like better than when you played it.
Yeah, I made it cold.
Okay. Because it sounded like da dee da dee da doo da. I didn't understand. I didn't hear the reach of the minor sixth right away. Da dee da da dee da. And I would think as a possibility that the second tempo, the second measure, it doesn't have to be the same tempo as the first measure. This, again, I'm going to Isaac Newton's theories about it. It takes more energy to get a body into motion than it does to keep it in motion. So, and the fact that the largest interval of this tune is between the first and second note, is that reaching up takes more energy. And the idea, for me at least in music, is that energy equals time. So to do ba-dee-da-da, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I would be too uncomfortable. And then you're kind of in a flow, and the notes are closer together and more alike. If you play the second measure, good, and the third measure, there's something similar about those, is there not?
Yeah, it's the same contour.
Yeah. And then the last measure? Right, and the F sharp has what function compared to the E?
Well, leads to it.
Does it?
Not okay.
I think it's an appoggiatura, the F sharp. So da dee da da dee da dee da dee da dee da la.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think both of them are appoggiaturas to the D.
Okay.
And are therefore heavier and requiring of a little bit more time. And since it's the first time we're hearing this, I don't know that anybody else is going to have the right to that kind of freedom.
Okay.
Right? It's just this first time. Because even when you go back, if you are going to make the repeat, it isn't the same information anymore because we've met these characters. We know what they've said, and maybe it's the guy's cousin who's talking to you about it now. Or if it's Schubert, it's the grandson, and he tends to repeat himself a lot, but it changes character. Can we try that for the beginning once more? Oh, I want to talk about one other thing, and I know, again, you're under the weather a little bit, but octaves, lower voice has to be more. Yeah. La-dee-da-da. When the lights come on, take your time. Whatever you want to do is fine. But big, me. That's usually not a good thing for chamber music, but in this case, I think it is. So. that's more of an ending, would you say? Or is that more of an ending? Or are they both?
I think it's
This one is more. Okay. Yeah. When they finish the light.
Okay.
No, that was a question. Wait. Which is more of an ending? Your end of your fourth bar, or the end of, what is that, 8 or 9?
10.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I think 10. Because,
You all agree?
mine,
Yeah.
mine is just kind of a statement, and like, it's an answer to mine.
Okay. I would like to experiment with you, your statement having more of a conclusion to it as well. And I also would like to hear what is similar about the third measure to the second. Because right now, I love the first measure. It sounds really beautiful. I don't hear it's almost as I don't know. It feels like more of an introduction instead of the movement starting. It feels, and then it's like another little introduction, and then it stops, and then something else happens. Cool. One more time from the beginning, please. Good. Don't be in any hurry to go on.
Okay.
Let it finish. I'm having trouble sitting this close, of course I'm on the wrong side of you, but it sounds like think about what it's like to be on stage as an actor and whisper something to the person next to you so that the person in the last row can hear you. So a stage whisper is something that I think we all have to learn about, because I don't think there are notes we're not supposed to hear. There are composers who write notes that maybe are superfluous, but Brahms isn't one of them. And you should also know that Brahms might have been one of them, but he was unbelievably critical of himself and threw away a tremendous amount of music. You know there's 3 string quartets, right? You know how many he wrote? 24.
Do we have them still?
No, Gonzil.
Really?
We have, probably he saved a few good tunes and used them in other pieces maybe, but he threw a lot of music away, just not good enough. Very tough. So, psst, hey, let's go over to the diner and get some lobster. You know, that they can hear, but if you, a real whisper like I would whisper, you say, hey, let's go over and get lobster. So they got no clue what's going on, right? So, could you allow more time to finish? And then think about what it is. Tell me your first name. Sarah. Sarah. Why are you repeating what he said? I mean, this is not new information. He didn't invite you to continue the melody. You say, hey, you know what? That's interesting what you just said. I think I'd like some of that. And I also want to hear, it starts with that same big interval. I don't hear it. Usually I think cellists play more musically than violinists and violists and pianists. And I think the reason is because they have these distances to travel and they somehow understand, like in a more vocal way, how the voice works. All we got to do is cross a string or something, you know. And we have to be careful when you do la da do, when you're crossing, make sure you're still hearing those distances. What I was talking about in the Clarke, the note you are coming from is more important. So it's not la da da da, but I don't know where I'm going. Cool. More time. Take it easy. Better. I'd like you to think about this idea. I believe that all music is about the smaller notes. More information is carried in the little notes than in the big notes. So, la da dee da dum, dee da dee da 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 dee da dum. That's incredibly ornate. And if the mood has been set of something that has a little bit of sadness or angst or something about is almost dissonant interval with it coming down to the C sharp, dee da 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 dee da dee dum, and again, and then dee da dee da da dee da dum. It's like, I'm really sorry I had to talk to you about this thing. You're gonna be okay. That flowery ending has some, it kind of warms things up and makes you feel a little bit better. And we need a little time for that. Does that feel like it's like crazy too much time?
Well, what you just
No, what you did going into the fifth bar.
Well, I think that maybe I might have been a little too much on this first quarter.
A little bit too much time or a little bit too much sound?
I think it maybe doesn't have too much time.
I would suggest that the time is almost, there's no right and wrong, but I like the time, but I think you were too quiet in order to be able to have us absorb the diminuendo and the time. So da 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 dee da dee da da dee da da.
Well, I think it's kind of like, I don't want to really overdo it either. I want to get this idea across, like what we were talking about, but I think there's a fine line between what's...
Absolutely. And it's got to be something that you all agree on and talk about. And would you agree that the first time through is like a little bit too straight out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, first of all, I don't know anything. Second of all, this is just another opinion. This is something else to think about. I think I played this with Manny as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Good piano.
Cool. Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad. For an old guy, it's pretty good. Okay, this is the last time where we're going. Oh, I wanted to ask you, we don't need to do this again. I want to ask you about syncopations. So, the first time we hear them is right after this, and then they start. What does it mean? Why use syncopation? What does it do to music?
Keep on rolling. Yeah.
So it's a motion. It's an energy device. Yeah? And if you're playing in 4 and you have a syncopation, it's twice as fast. Because instead of bum, 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 you have ba, 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 ba. And somebody else is playing on the beat in this case, so we have twice as many beats. So it adds a lot of motion. My sense is that you guys play all of the syncopations too melodically and not rhythmically enough. So bum, 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 bum. Don't worry about sustaining so much, but the beginning of the notes, to put a consonant on them of some kind instead of too zoftig. I'd love to exchange dynamic for clarity in this case as well, because I don't think it's about yum ba 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 yum ba ba. And if it's really clear and a little bit shorter, we'll hear that, and it will make room for a melodic line to exist on top of it. Cool. Can we start from right there where the syncopation begins? Sorry. Any repetition that you have, I'd like you to make a plan for it. dee-dum. That's a little bit different, right? But la-da-da-da-dum. Now what? A little bit gentler, maybe a little bit, maybe, but you have to agree on that. La-da-ba-da-bum, lee-da-da-da-dum, dee-da-ba-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-ba-da-ba. Think about changing the articulations more. I think that that's something that you can send so many musical signals through changing articulation. I feel that we musicians, we classical musicians, depend too much on dynamics as our tool of expressing ourselves, and not enough time, not enough articulation, not enough color. And of those, time is the most interesting. And if you think about it in a bigger picture, bigger terms, in our lives, it's probably the most important thing as well. Loud and soft, it's like, more food, less food. The quality may be more interesting. What made it memorable? What made it interesting? Can we do one more time? From the syncopation. Yeah, thanks. Separate ones. Yeah. What's the bar before that look like? Is it the same? Right. So what's the plan for that bar? It's you and the cello and the piano, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The bar before the fortissimo.
26.
Yeah. So what's going on in that bar? What are you planning to do? Can you play just the last two bars before the fortissimo? Sorry. Where are you? The last two bars before. Oh, I see.
25.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. Here. You can do from the second quarter. So what's happening to the quarter notes in your left hand and the rest of the chords?
Marching along.
So what he's written is sustained legato for a few notes, and then he starts separating them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want to know is I was talking earlier about how composers have bar lines and exact note values, and I'd like to get away from that. I'd like to read between the lines. If I'm going from something that is completely legato to something that is not, is there a way to get from one to the other without doing la da da dum bum 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 bum? And what might it be? You know, because you're already doing it. You're cheating a little bit. You're taking some of the legato idea and keeping that and becoming more articulate as you move towards the bigger dynamic. It's changing the articulation that is interesting. The dynamic will come along with it. But I think that the length of the notes is what changes. They become shorter. Or they become longer, whatever you want. Or if you want, you could do lee-da-da-dee-pum-ping-pum. You could exaggerate the crescendo by making a small diminuendo before it, if you like. That the line is coming down a little bit. Anyway, can you try to match that, at least with that idea in mind? Can we do from, yeah, that's good. First fortissimo, yeah. something that our friend Ida Kavafian always says. When you see a crescendo, start softer. So, dee da da dee da dee da dee da dee da dum dee da la da. It's a long crescendo, and sforzandos, in my opinion, in many composers' music, mean sequential arise or fall of dynamic. In this case, arise. So once he's got you at fortissimo at A, and then he says crescendo, and then he says 8 sforzandos to fortissimo. I don't think that's possible. I think that's bad compositional orchestration on his part. So we're going to help him out a little bit. Also, there's 3 of you. Are you playing that tune too? No, you're accompanying them or you're pushing them forward. So I would say the most and almost as the most, and take it easy as you're on top. I want to talk about one other small thing. When you have 6 before A, you have fortissimo, all 3 strings, and then you start less. You have piano. 6 before A. Where's your A? Oh, okay. All right. So so what he's written is pa dee da da, right? I think it would be nice if you make a crescendo at the end of your fortissimo, forcing, tell me your first name? Donovan. Forcing Donovan to have to wait a little bit, because it sounds da dee da da, da dee da da. I don't quite hear, he's took a little time, but da dee da da. It also depends on the acoustic of the room, and the better the acoustic, the more time you need. This idea is something that makes playing Beethoven really hard, because he has crescendos to nowhere in particular, subito piano. Another crescendo, nowhere in particular, to the... What are you supposed to do about that? Besides rehearse for 35 years and still not be together. It's cool. Can we do from 1 bar before that, so 5, 6, 7 before A, or the 1 bar before the first?
20.
Instead of getting louder, is to change the articulation and length of the notes. So what might start as dee dum dee dum dee da dee da dee da. So instead of dropping so much, start sustaining. The overall effect is going to make it feel like you're growing in some way, but you're not actually getting louder. You're just not dropping as much. Yeah. And be careful that your sforzandos don't take a lot of time.
The 16th?
Yeah, the 16th notes. The sforzandos, it sounds like la dum dee da yada da 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 da. I don't think that they are just moments along the way of rising intensity, and not something that you do to the note particularly to divide it, because it's going to sound very vertical.
Like, so you're saying, like, go more toward that, like, as a whole, like, the line is just like...
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, so moving towards the tandem, whereas that stuff.
But like, I feel like there's like also a sense of beat by beat here also.
That you want to hear beat by beat?
Yeah, it's...
You know, did you download this from the internet?
I think so, yeah.
You're missing sforzandos on every quarter.
Oh. That's...
So he wants something, he wants a but the danger is it's a timing issue, I think.
Okay.
Okay. That's great. Da-dee-da-dum, the first one. You roll together.
21.
27.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. sorry, A, yeah. Good. I want to talk about one more thing and then we probably have to stop. The downbeat of A is what I call a Janus note. And it resolves something that happened before. Right now, I think you're only treating it as the last of what came before as a separate chord. So I'm hearing lam ti da da dee instead of la ti da. Its first role is to finish what you started saying, and its second, and then it has to morph into its new idea. What happens right before?
Oh, yeah, it's me. That's not
Right. Dum ping pom ta dee da da dee da instead of bum ding bum da dee da da. Yeah, both things. How did that work, changing the length of the notes going in like 30, 31?
Like I don't have to work as hard to make a bigger difference.
Okay. It also leaves you more room to climb later. Cool. We should probably stop. Thanks for putting yourself out there. I hope you don't wind up in the hospital, but
Appreciate it.
yeah.
Working
You
on
can
that.
blame me. It's all my fault. Anybody have any questions? Answers?
When are you coming back?
When am I coming back? Who said I was leaving? I'm sticking around.
Yeah, he's moving into.
I'm moving to Queens. Absolutely. A lot of good food out here. Cool. Thanks for playing. Really nice to hear you. Yeah. Cool.
Hey, thanks for Toby.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. That's not such bad music.